All right, we'll be kicking off in just about one more minute. Appreciate you guys for joining. We didn't really promote this one too much. It should be a pretty informal meeting and event. Really, we're just kind of covering and recapping, what the Tableau user group has done throughout the year, and then maybe even open it up to the audience to talk about, what would you guys would like to see going into next year, as we start kind of making plans for new content and new speakers. So we'll give everyone just about one more minute. I really wish I could figure out how to do music, but we'll just have to sit in silence until we get that one figured out. But you guys can play music in your head, maybe. I know Tim, he's over there probably, he always sings the Danger Zone to us. Air Force vet.
Right. Well, Top Gun was Navy, so I don't really sing that. Have I done that before? I don't think I have.
Of course you do. You do all the time.
Yeah.
He just doesn't want to admit it. He's being modest.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and kick things off. I really appreciate you guys for coming. Me go through our agenda. So we'll just go through, introduce ourselves. Then we typically have a segment called Vet to Viz, where we kind of talk through, how you became or transitioned from the military into data work, or even just how you got involved doing data. Then we'll cover kind of the main event. It's the top tips from the year, like I mentioned earlier. We'll go through some announcements and then just open it up for conversation. But just to quickly cover who we are as leads, you have Tim and Ethan on the line here. I'm an Army veteran, been in data for quite a while now, do consulting through or with a company called Playfair Data. So we consult with companies all over the world. It's awesome. I absolutely love it. But beyond that, we also have Tim. Tim's a Air Force vet. Tim, you want to talk about yourself, and then I'll talk through who Abe and Chris are.
Sure. Tim, Air Force vet, 4 years active, 6 years in the Guard. Behind me it worked mainly with fighters during my career, doing ops. I got into data when I joined the FAA. Now I now work with the Federal Aviation Administration and the Office of Commercial Space Transportation. So commercial space meaning outer space and not like real estate, which sometimes I have to clarify. But I do the performance measures and strategic planning for them. And that's basically it. So yeah, I've been using Tableau for like 7 years. I got into it during the FAA in my previous office, when they just said that I was taking over the metrics, and I had to look up what that exactly meant. So, and now I'm here. So thanks everyone for joining. So I know especially there's holiday parties and leave and vacations and stuff, and but I appreciate everyone being here. Thanks.
Yeah, totally. And then just to kind of cover the other two, Abe, he's kind of a rising star within data. He's just getting involved in data and just recently transitioned out of the Marine Corps. So that's Abe. And then Chris. Chris is a really talented data engineer, one of the most talented data engineers I've ever seen, to be honest with you. Chris is also a Marine Corps vet, and he actually had a presentation to do, so he had a conflict and wasn't able to join us today. But that's our leadership team. Obviously, if you guys have any questions or if there's any way we can help you guys on your own personal journeys, feel free to reach out to any of us at any time. We're happy to help. So we'll kick this off. This is a segment we do in our calls where we just want to kind of hear from you. Tell us your story. So if anyone wants to jump in and share, how you guys got involved working in data, we would love to hear it. So I'll kind of open it up to you all.
Hey, this is Matthew Horan. I can go here. I don't know if mine is going to be a very typical story, but I was in the Air Force crew in F-16s over in Spangdahlem, Germany, and after I got out, I studied geology, earth science, and I got into environmental health and safety. And through a series of moves and job changes, I ended up starting at Tableau in 2015, building up their corporate EHS program. And yeah, I mean, at that point, I had always been kind of the technology data guy, and then I ended up working at Tableau, and then it just became a one-man show. So I was using Tableau to automate my job in so many different ways. And ever since then, I've just kind of fallen in love with it. And I now work, I'm still at Salesforce, so Tableau since 2015. And I work on the global operations strategic initiatives for Tableau. And I'm helping them build their analytics program as Tableau continues to merge into Salesforce. So it's certainly an interesting position, and it's really speaks to the love that I have for Tableau and how much it's been such a life changer for me, and how much I enjoy working with it. So kind of moved out of EHS and I'm more towards just building analytics at this point.
Oh, that's awesome. It's a really interesting story. I appreciate you sharing. I think something you and I have in common, when I first started my own personal journey, I also ran into a similar situation where I joined a marketing firm and they were working through Excel, and I introduced them to Tableau, and it really, through that, like propelled my own like career forward. Just because like it brought so much value to the business, like being able to automate these things versus like manually pulling stuff out of Google Analytics, like you just connect to it and run an extract. So it really did provide a lot of value, propel me forward. So appreciate you sharing. That's awesome. Good to hear from you.
Hey, Matthew, when were you at Spang? I was there too.
It's been a long time, but I was there from 2002 to 2005.
We overlapped a little bit.
Oh yeah.
If you could tell, those are Spang jets behind me.
That's 22nd. Yeah, I was 23rd.
Okay. You were a crew chief, you said?
Yeah, crew.
Yeah. I was so I was ops. You would hear me on the radio and stuff, calling out codes and things like that.
You hear me yelling with busted knuckles and hydraulic fluid streaming down my arms.
That's cool. I'll catch up with you later. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. Right. Yeah.
Cool. Paul, it looks like you wanted to share.
Hey, yeah, hi. Absolute pleasure to be here. Really chuffed, so thank you. I joined the army, the British Army, obviously, in how long ago was this? A long time ago. Basically, I did 22 years in the British Army. I came out in 2010 with not really much of an idea of what I was going to do. So I started playing about with Excel, and I got a job with the NHS, the Public Health Service over in the UK. Did that for several years, and also undertook a business degree, and learned that through that degree that data analysis was going down, but desktop analysis was going down, but this thing called, I didn't know what it was, BI was apparently coming in. And I thought, okay, I'll have a little look into that, because if that's my industry and that's the way forward, I better do it. I then progressed from there to another company, distribution, and started as a BI analyst on a program called software called MicroStrategy. Absolutely awful. But I kept going through it, passed my degree, moved from that company and started building. I've never built a server in my life, but thanks to Google, I learned SQL and how to build servers. And then finally got to the company that I'm working in now with another software called Board. And that's multidimensional databasing before you even get to the BI, which was great for some jobs. It's a good fit, but not really for the company that they're working on. And then 2 years ago, they brought in Tableau. And they just happened to ask me, look, do you think you could do something on this dashboard for this company? And I managed to turn it around in 2 weeks. I Googled the living daylights out of it. And Ethan, hey, do you know what? Do you know what got me over the finish line? Being serious, mate. Ryan and Playfair Data. I'm being serious. There's two luminaries that I use. Playfair Data for everything. I mean, I watch every single video, but I was doing them all night. I was doing like 20 hours a day. But then also there's people like Andy Kriebel and the twins. Though you three are now where am I now? So I started off as a data analyst in this company, then I became the lead analyst in BI. Now I'm looking at helming the UK and Europe as we branch out. I'm in the global BI analysis at the moment, leading that team. And now I'm going to go over to Europe and branch out and look after the region over there.
Man, that is absolutely fantastic. I really appreciate you sharing that, because you know, when you write blogs, you see people that read it, but you never get like that firsthand experience. So I really appreciate you sharing. That's awesome. Yeah, I think the one thing that I think we've all kind of heard in common is like, we've jumped into this tool, didn't really know how to use it, jumped in anyway, took the initiative, and it's really propelled your career forward. So that's awesome. Love it. Anybody else?
I can go. I don't know if I feel kind of like I walked into a room with a lot of really talented and smart people, and I'm kind of the new guy. So my name's Alexis, and I actually joined the National Guard, but then I went active duty within the National Guard. And so I did time as back and forth between human resources and medical, but I was a medical like readiness at the height of COVID. So I did a lot of like data analytics and stuff as we tried to navigate COVID world with, you know, the military and stuff. So I just left the military and I did the Google Data Analytics Professional Certificate. And then I partnered with the American Corporate Partners, ACP, and I really wanted to try and transition into like a data analytics position, but I used human resources to get my first job outside of the military. So when I was working with ACP, I said, I don't really feel like I need to network with people in HR because I feel very comfortable in, you know, that world, but I don't know people in the civilian side who have like data analytics skills or technical skills. And I just want somebody to help introduce me to that world. So they partnered me with a guy, and he's like a Tableau wizard. He's great. Sorry about the cat. But he's just been really helpful with introducing me to that, you know, talking to me about resume. Also introduced me to Salesforce because I had never even heard of Salesforce before. So I'm still very new. I'm working through projects, trying to build experience, but somehow I came across this group and I was like, any opportunity to learn more about Tableau and network with people in that, you know, Tableau world, like sign me up. So I feel a little silly being here, but hopefully I can learn from you guys.
No, don't feel silly. So how did you actually come across this group, out of curiosity? Alexis.
Sorry, I hit the mute button. Sorry, I hit the mute button. I was trying to figure out how to unmute it from my phone.
Sure.
I'm actually not sure. I think I got an email or something. Like I've been on the Tableau website. I signed up for the Tableau like the training material. I signed up for that for a year so I'd have access to the materials. And then I think I was trying to connect with Tableau groups. And because I'm a veteran, I think that's how maybe I came across this. So I lucked into it and here I am.
There is a blog. Maybe you got the blog for Veterans Day. They did a blog about us. So perhaps.
Yeah, and I think maybe somebody also posted about it on LinkedIn. Because I've also tried to stay kind of active on there.
Okay, cool. But don't feel like an imposter being here. Like I'm not as skilled as you know, just because I'm a lead doesn't mean that I'm that good at it. You know, I just like, you know, networking with vets and you know, building my skills here too. So everyone is welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You've definitely come to the right place. We're all like-minded, happy to help. So if you do have any questions, once you start getting into, you know, your journey, definitely lean on this group. That's what we're here for. We would love to help you and expand your skills or help you with resume or even just open up our network to you to introduce you to folks. You know, we're happy to do any of that.
And what's the best way to, and I apologize, I just got a new phone, so I was a little late to the meeting because I had to install Zoom on it. What is the best way to network with this group? Like, do you guys prefer like the email, or did you do LinkedIn, or I don't know if that was said and I just missed it.
Yeah, we have a group page on LinkedIn. We also have a Twitter. The best way to network with us, though, honestly, is just connect with us on LinkedIn. I think we're all really active there. And you can network with any of the leads directly there through messaging.
I'll post the links in the chat.
Okay,
Yeah, I
thank
appreciate that, Tim. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and move into more or less the main content of today. And like I mentioned at the beginning, I'll just kind of reiterate, this meeting, we wanted to keep it kind of informal. We really didn't even do a whole lot of advertising for the meeting itself. We wanted to respect, it's the holidays, people are taking time off. We didn't want to just kind of put it out there that we were having a meeting, especially this close to the holidays. So we'd like to keep this really informal. We don't have a guest speaker today. Really, we just wanted to cover the highlights over the past year, what this group has done, the content that we've been able to provide. And then maybe even towards the end, we would love to just open it up to you folks. And, if there is any content that you would like to see in future meetings, we would definitely love to hear it so we can start planning out what next year looks like. So that way we can kind of get the content that, our audience is looking for. So without further ado, I'll just go ahead and jump in. The first guest speaker that I wanted to cover, this was very early in the year, in 2022, this year, obviously. But we had Matt Brattin, and he did a technical interview workshop. If you guys haven't seen this, I would definitely recommend checking it out. Basically, he talks through how to get an analytics job and what that interview looks like from both sides of the table. So Matt is obviously, he's a VP of TMB Analytics. So he's kind of gone through and seen every aspect of the interviewing process from both sides of the table. So what I loved about this one is he really was able to give you that perspective of like, the person on the other side is almost as nervous, if not even more nervous than you, and you're there for a specific reason. So he talked through different ways that you can, plan ahead and set up your interview for success and what that looks like. So these were kind of the highlights that I pulled out of that meeting. One, just come prepared, and then execute on your pre-plan. So he talks through how to plan out the meeting and kind of even control the conversation in ways from the interviewee perspective. So I thought that was very interesting. The third bullet there, leave it all at the interview. So this was also, again, a very interesting perspective that he brought to the table, because what he was saying is, from the interviewee side, this company you're interviewing at, they have a job posting for a reason. They need someone there they're looking to hire someone. They need that person to fill a role so they can, proceed on their own mission and kind of execute for their own clientele. So bringing in and just leaving everything at the interview, making sure that there's no outstanding questions, because as the interviewer sitting across from you, they are almost just as nervous. They might not ask you all the questions that they wanted to ask you. So just coming in with a plan and making sure you execute on that plan and leave nothing on the table or no questions after the fact. And then lastly, you're clear on what happens next. So what he was describing is at the end of the interview, make sure from both sides of the table, one, you're giving your interviewee clear direction on what they can expect, whether it's a follow-up or, if you guys would reach out for further communication. And then as the interviewer, the interviewee, giving out clear direction on following up with a follow-up email, letting them, thanking them for their time, letting them know that you're available if there were any follow-ups or any questions, all of that stuff. So definitely one of the highlights of the year. I love this one. I think it actually got one of the most or the highest audience that we've had. I think there was close to 100 folks that came into this one. So it was a really, really interesting workshop. and I definitely recommend checking it out. The link's there at the bottom, but I can send out these links towards the end. I'll just copy them into the chat at the end. The next guest speaker that I wanted to highlight was Albert. You guys might have heard of Albert. He's really big on LinkedIn. I think he has over 10,000 followers now. He does a lot of networking on personal branding within LinkedIn and how that can organically get you a job or passive opportunities, as he calls it. But Albert's a really interesting guy. If you guys follow him on LinkedIn, or if you don't, excuse me, I'd highly recommend it. He posts a lot of really good content out there. He also hosts a challenge called LinkedIn Hard Mode. And essentially it's just something that you can join in and to challenge yourself and to build your own personal brand by participating in that challenge. And it's just continuously posting content every day for a certain amount of time. So it might be 30 days, might be 14 days, 90 days, but just participating. It's just a good challenge to build up your own personal brand on LinkedIn, get your content out there. But what he really covered was these key sections here. One was building your own building your own profile on LinkedIn and other social media platforms, and posting regular content to create those passive opportunities, like I was saying. One of the things he highlighted was, if you're on LinkedIn and you're posting and someone has a job that they want to post out there, really you want that recruiter, that HR person to say, oh, you're looking for a new data analyst. Like, I saw this guy on LinkedIn, let me introduce you. And that's how you really want the conversation to go. So posting on LinkedIn, things like that can help you grow those passive opportunities. Another one was just networking. Joining groups like this and networking. Obviously, everyone here, we would love to open up our network to you guys as well. And I know you guys kind of reverberate that back. So yeah, just jumping in, networking, you'd be surprised what that can lead to in your career. Last is creating content. He was very clear about this, but key takeaway is just do it. The content could be, you don't have to go out there and write technical blogs or, host a webinar or do any of these crazy things. It can literally just be, content about how you're doing or a cool project that you saw and what you liked about it. Anything like that can create content and kind of show your audience, you are interested in this stuff and that you're willing to go the extra mile to, make things happen. Lastly is building a portfolio. This was crucial to tech professionals, and I can personally vouch for this. Building your own portfolio, especially on like Tableau Public, can really help, navigate and show your skills and that you're willing to do, these personal projects and show your interests and things. All of that stuff can help build and position yourself better when going into a job interview. And then he also talked about just having a personal brand, which ties all that stuff together. So it's, that profile, the networking, the content creation, your portfolio, they should all have this one overlapping branding, which is you and what you're interested in. And that could be using certain fonts or using certain messaging, leading with, your profile, leading with your portfolio, incorporating your profile into your portfolio. And vice versa. So all that stuff, the brand really just ties it all together. This one was another really interesting event, so I definitely recommend checking it out and just going through and pulling out some of these key features, especially if you're looking at personal branding or content creation on social media. This one will be a very helpful event to check out. And it's all pre-recorded on YouTube. Another guest speaker I wanted to highlight, this is our very own Chris. Chris, like I said, is one of the most talented data engineers I've ever met. And he hosted an event not too long ago where he introduced different types of tools and ways that you can use them to do data engineering, to kind of prep your data before it's ingested. So in his talk, he covered these different tools and when and why not to use them, why to use them in certain situations, so the pros and cons of each. But we covered Excel and Power Query, Tableau prep, and then he did Alteryx demo as well. So if you're looking at picking up on different techniques, definitely check this one out. It's all about data prep. And whether you're using any of these tools, I think there's something in there that you can learn, especially if this is something that you want to grow on your own personal journey. All right, then we had an event. This one was fantastic. It was all about how to build your portfolio and really start getting involved with that stuff. So we had 3 guest speakers, all extremely talented ladies. Lorna Brown, she's a visionary. Irene and Priya, they're both, up and coming stars. If you haven't seen their portfolios, I mean, I highly recommend it. Just go to Tableau Public, look up any one of these 3, and you'll see some amazing things that they've built. But some of the key takeaways I pulled out from there, use Tableau Public for inspiration. So even when I come into, if it's a personal project, obviously I'm going to go to Tableau Public, but even things for work related, I might just check out Tableau Public and just peruse through there to pull out inspiration for different chart types, or maybe it's just different ways to visualize data altogether. But really just leaning on Tableau Public, not only as like something to build your portfolio and for you, but just to go there and find inspiration on things you can incorporate in your own work. Another one was getting connected with the community. All 3 of these individuals are highly involved within the community. They're posting content, they're posting new work on Tableau Public, and just overall just willing to help out anybody in the community. And I think that Tableau community, and I can speak to myself, like it is different than anything I've ever seen as far as like a software community. There's really like this bond, and like data, I feel, is like such a small industry. We can all relate to each other. And I think we're all willing to help one another. So yeah, getting involved in the community, and that could be coming to events like this and networking, starting your own Tableau user groups in your own area, checking out the conference, or attending. Today is the Tableau Fringe Festival. It's basically a mini conference that the community itself has like put together. So all really cool stuff. Definitely recommend checking out that stuff. Participating in community events. These could be things, I mean, even the Veterans Tableau user group, we host quarterly challenges and community events where we'll publish a data set that you guys can download if you're interested in it, and create something to, one, just build your own portfolio. But we also, what differentiates us from other community events is we'll partner with different nonprofits. So we'll actually host their data, get data from them, and then give that out there for the community to build. So not only are you, spreading awareness of different issues that are arising within the veterans community, but you can also build your own portfolio and overall just help anyone out. Other community events, there's game night community event. There's the Viz for Social Good. There's a whole community events page that you guys can go and check out to see how you can get involved and participate in some of these. And lastly, they just said, have fun with it. Honestly, I mean, I can speak to that as well. When I Viz stuff, it's because like I'm very passionate about it. Obviously, I do a lot of Viz for veterans and stuff like that. But overall, just jumping in and having fun with it and getting to meet new people, getting to show off your skills, building your portfolio. It's just a lot of fun. The next guest speaker I'll highlight was Tor Livingston. Tim and I attended the Tableau conference and we met him there in person. He's from Norway. So it was really cool to kind of, beyond just, our own community here, we're kind of expanding internationally at this point. But Tor is an absolute wizard with Tableau. If you're looking for tips, check this one out. Again, it's recorded on YouTube, but he did speed tips. So he literally covered, you could probably pull out 75 different tips that came out of this one presentation. But just to highlight a few that I really enjoyed, he showed us how to jitter a box and whisker plot, which is a pretty cool tactical technique, very easy to implement, especially if you're trying to display a lot of data and the outliers and stuff like that. Jittering is just an effect where if you visualize a box and whisker plot, all of your marks on the view are going to be kind of, overlapping one another in kind of a straight line. Jittering is where you just take that and you spread it out across your x-axis. So you can see the data points and kind of see them a little bit better. Also, you can start to hover over them and see what's differentiating about them. So he showed us how to do that. Really cool technique. Conditional formatting. So here he showed us how you can write different LODs, and you can start building out conditional formatting. So you can color your marks on the view different colors based on some condition. So an example of this, if you had, say, a scatter plot and you wanted to build out 4 distinct quadrants within that scatter plot, say it's like customer segmentation, you could build out this conditional formatting that will format each quadrant a particular color. So essentially you can create a cluster of different customers in that use case. He also had like an entire segment where he used hotkeys and like different command keys and command functions that you can use on your machine to tab between different sheets. It was awesome. But this one particularly stood out to me. I've never heard of this till he presented it. If you press Control E, and this is specific for Windows machine, I'm not sure exactly what the command function would be, but on a Mac, I believe it's like Command E. But Control E, if you're on a sheet, it will show a sheet description, which has, all the measures and dimensions that you're using in that sheet. And it has different documentation that you can then take from the sheet itself and put into your documentation for, what you're handing over to your stakeholders. Really cool function. That was the first time that I had ever seen a hotkey for something like that, but now I use it all the time. It's like made my life so much easier, especially, like I said, when I'm putting together documentation. Double encoding with shapes. So he went through in one of his segments where he took different shapes, for instance, like an up and down triangle, and double encoded the marks in his view with those shapes, and showed us how to do that and implement them in the, if you're in formatting, you can do a custom format on some of your numbers or text within Tableau. He showed us how you can plug in shapes into that formatting. So now you're double encoding your marks. This is specifically helpful, especially if you're working with stakeholders that may be colorblind. Double encoding your marks on your view is a really easy way to help out or address some of those issues. So that was really cool one. And then he showed us how to create a lot of non-native charts within Tableau. So we're all familiar with the Show Me tab. And that's a huge selection of different chart types that, Tableau's incorporated into their tool that, you just click a button and it will build it for you. But he showed us how to easily build, different things like tree maps and word clouds and all kinds of stuff that doesn't necessarily come native within Tableau, but are very easy to implement. Then we had a speaker, Jeremy Blaney. And Jeremy is actually a really interesting guy. If you follow his own career, he worked at Tableau. He actually helped get this Tableau user group kicked off and off the ground. I know in the early days, even before I was a lead, Tim here, he's one of the founders of this group. But Jeremy helped us out a lot in our own personal journey. So having him come and speak to us was just absolutely fantastic. But he presented his own personal journey. So going from, being in the military and his early career in the military to getting out and starting in the business world, and then even just moving up through his own career, going from an analyst to a manager to a more strategic planner and all of that stuff. So it was really interesting to hear his story. But a lot of my favorite tips that came out of that one, he presented something, it's just learn as you grow. And essentially what he was saying is, you can have mentors and people that can help you through this stuff, but really, a lot of times you just have to do trial by error and figure out what works and what doesn't, and just learn as you kind of grow through your own career. So that was really interesting feedback, I thought. And then this one is near and dear to me, but it's stay true to your roots. No matter how big you get or, where you're going, your trajectory in your career, just know kind of where you came from and keeping humble and staying humble. I think is really important. So that's something that was dear to me. I thought that was a really cool tip that he shared. See this, it's actually in my way. You'll never teach or mentor yourself out of a job. So I thought this was really interesting, and this is for folks, I mean, early in your career, even later in your career, you're going to get these times in your career where you might be a leader and you're training someone else to be a leader. And there's a lot of, anxiety that comes with that. You might have imposter syndrome, like, well, if I train this person to do what I do, like, then can't they just do what I do? And what am I here for? But, as you grow in your own career, you'll find that leading people and mentoring people and teaching people, that doesn't come natural, and that comes over time and takes experience to really truly master that. So never think that you're teaching or mentoring yourself out of a job. Like, there's always going to be a place for you. That's why you're there, and that's one of the values that you can bring to an organization. So I thought that was really interesting that he had identified that. And then this one, another interesting one, but technology alone is not sufficient. People in the process matter. So Jeremy was one of the key founders and kind of visionaries of the Tableau blueprint. If you're not familiar with that, it's essentially just like a blueprint on how to implement Tableau and be very successful with it within an organization. And what he's trying to highlight here, at least what I took away from it, is, there's a lot of like buzzwords out there, AI, machine learning, all these things, and automation and doing things, automated. But that technology alone, it's not sufficient. You do need people to kind of make sense out of that stuff and to make decisions from that. You need people to kind of interpret what that actually means to the business. Not every decision can be built off of data, and I can say that comfortably because I truly think that's the case. There are times when you need to match data with intuition, and only a person at the other side of that can bring that value and tie them together. So I thought that was a really interesting key out. Now we're starting to get into one of our most recents. Zach Bowders came and spoke to our group and presented basically just how he builds his own portfolio. If you haven't checked out Zach's portfolio on Tableau Public, I highly recommend it. He just has some phenomenal work out there. But he kind of presented his own, he chose kind of 3 different projects that he's worked on and then walked us through those, how he tackled them, how he came into them, and that kind of stuff. So these were the tips that I pulled from this talk. But basically, find topics that you love for your own personal projects. Again, I think I can relate to this one. I've tried to do personal Tableau Public projects on different things that I thought would be interesting, like the housing market. I was buying a house in early 2020. I actually successfully purchased a house before COVID. So yay me, I got in just in time. But I thought it would be so cool if I could build out this like really cool project that analyzed the housing markets across different areas. But I was not passionate about that. Like, I love data and I love this kind of stuff, but overall, I wasn't very passionate in the housing market. So what happened? I put it off. I would work on it a little bit and get bored. I, put 30 minutes in and be like, why am I doing this? And it fell off my radar. I lost passion about it. So what he suggests, and I can relate to, is find something that you love, something that you relate to, and that, drive to build it will just come naturally if you're truly invested in it. So what I've found, as a veteran, I love doing vizzes about veteran issues or raising awareness for certain things. I'm very passionate about that. So it's easy for me to like take time out of my own day and, after hours, if you will, to build out some of those personal projects. Then this one was an interesting tip. He says, sometimes you can't validate your data and sometimes you can. So sometimes you can't. I thought that was really interesting. He gave us an example of, he built this viz on ratings for different streaming services. And he found that Amazon was just awful as far as the ratings on their shows that they had in that streaming service. But it comes to find out that the data that he captured, it was, I think, off of Kaggle, had some data validation issues. And someone very bluntly posted about that on Twitter. So he had to kind of navigate that, and he talked us through, you know, the pros and cons of grabbing data from somewhere else that you haven't personally like vetted. And then if it is, you know, 10 times out of 10, it's probably going to be or have issues with it that you're just not aware of. So he gave us some pointers on how to handle that. And then again, this kind of reiterates the second bullet, but don't be afraid to put your work out there. Most of the data is not perfect, has not been validated, truly vetted out. So he just said, you know, sometimes you just have to go with it. And a lot of times if you have a critic that comes and says, hey, you know, there's 100 problems with your data, why didn't you know about that? You know, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now you know, and you had someone that actually went in and QA'd all the data for you. So you can kind of go back through and maybe even redo it or navigate it with that new information. So don't be scared to put your data out there, or to put your work out there. Then on that same event, David Bretzler also presented, and here's some of the tips that I took. It's a very similar presentation, but he talked about different ways to look for data using public sources, and he listed out a lot of public sources that I didn't even think of. The World Health Organization, Spotify has public data. You can get public data on Netflix. There's just all these different sites and repositories of data out there. He also talked how to procure data utilizing project management skills. So David is actually a very talented project manager. He's also a vet, and learning from the supply chain and logistics in the military. He's able to take some of those skills that he learned and utilize them in a business setting to procure data from different stakeholders. So I'm sure as analysts, we've all run into the case where maybe we're working with a stakeholder that doesn't want to give us all the data. David presented some tips where you can kind of talk through and navigate and negotiate through those situations. And then lastly, he also mentioned becoming a master of your skill. You know, what sets you different from you know, your competition, which would be, you know, other people that want the same job as you, for instance. So mastering something very specific and something that is a skill that comes naturally to you can be very beneficial. So he talked through that. I think for his skill, he mentioned, you know, I'm really good at negotiation and project management and keeping things moving and doing that. So that's his skill. But, you know, for some of us, it might be a technical skill, or it might be like a certain soft skill that you have that, you know, you've mastered over the years. It could be speaking publicly or presenting data. All of those things are very valuable. So look internally, kind of look through your own skill set and your personal toolbox and see if there's anything that might stand out to you that you could focus in on and hone. But I thought that was really cool insight that he gave. And then again, and I can see a typo right here, we have Will Sutton speaking about military business and decision intelligence. That's not what his topic was about. I'm sorry about that. That was a copy and paste error right there. But we had Will Sutton come in. If you guys aren't familiar with him, he was the last year's Iron Viz championship or champion. So Will came in and talked through how to build portfolio using Tableau Public, presented out some really interesting stuff. One thing that he talked about, this is the first bullet, but just how to get involved in the community and how to differentiate yourself and your portfolio. And this goes beyond just like making a bunch of Tableau Public visits. So he talked about using Tableau Public, using forums like Stack Overflow or the community Tableau forum, and then also participating in events like Iron Quest and different things like that. Participating in those events gets your name out there with different people that are hosting that event. So it might expand your own network by just participating. This one's actually kind of comical, the next bullet here, but he talked about what a beer mile is. This is the first time I've ever heard of anything like this. But he showed us a video of what a beer mile is. And it's essentially you run quarter miles on a track and you have to chug a beer every quarter mile. And it's called a beer mile. And there's actually competitions for this. So I thought that was just interesting. I thought it was pretty funny, so I put it in there. And then the last bullet, really his talk was, he uncovered 5 different ways to find a project or to, how should I say, hone in on what you want your project to be about. So he presented these 5 different ways. One is to share your interests. So I spoke about, I'm very passionate about doing veteran related projects. So something that you're sharing an interest with is a good way to tackle it and kind of find a project that you can work on. Another way he talked about is answering a question. And he presented an example of this, but basically it's just asking yourself like a question. Like, is this optimal, or what is the housing market going to look like in 20 years? And then building a project around answering that question. A third way he talked about is finding a new format. So what he positioned is like a soccer table. If you're familiar with anything to do with soccer, they have these really old tables that they've been using for hundreds of years that list out, how many goals were made, how many points they have, where they're at in the rankings within their own, organization. But basically taking that same data and like turning it into and showing it in a new format and visualizing the data in a better way. So that was a really interesting way to kind of approach building out a new thing. Then he said the fourth way was to take an article and visualize it. So he kind of used an example where he found this article in the newspaper and it just talked through some of the data. So he took that same article and those same key points and visualized it and was able to present it in a way that was very clear what they were trying to say without, making it too wordy. And then last was to recreate something in Tableau and take that as a challenge for your own self. The example he used is he's very interested in playing Halo. And on the Halo loading screen, it has like start game and all of these key functions where you can look at different people and compare your own port or your own profile to, other people that play the game. And he was able to recreate that entire menu in Tableau. It's actually really fascinating. It was one of the first Tableau dashboards I've seen that incorporated like a video as the background. So it's actually automated and like animated. So there's like snow falling and it looks really, really cool. But a great way to present something and to find a new project. And that was it. So we had a lot of different events. And like I said, a lot of different content. Obviously, as you guys know, you may not know, every person that comes and speaks at one of our events, we present them with our own military challenge coin that we had made. So this is our challenge coin. And obviously, if any of you are interested in coming to speak at our events, definitely reach out to us. We want to get this in the hands of, people that participate and help our group out. So definitely reach out, and maybe this could be sitting on your shelf at home. But with that, I'll just kind of open it up. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I thought this was a pretty informal one, just to kind of highlight some of the keys. We'll probably start promoting it as an after effect, and we'll just promote this recorded video. But I do want to hear from you guys. Is there anything or any content, anything that we could do to help you guys in your own journey, or something you're interested in? And more importantly, is, what we're doing, is it of interest to you, and how we can make things better? But I'll open it up to the floor.
I'll say that it's definitely of interest to me. Just all the topics that you had mentioned, each one of those, like, oh yeah, I definitely want to go read about that or listen to it. So hopefully, I don't know if there's a way for me to get the links to all those different YouTube videos, because I was searching for them just now. But there's a lot there, and I think it'll be really helpful for me, just kind of going over some of the topics, right? I mean, even here at Salesforce, it's sometimes hard to get real stories like that put into a format that's easy to digest and very relatable. And I think that's what I'm hearing and looking at now. So I'm excited for it.
So you can't find it on YouTube, the links for the video?
I'm sure that I can. I guess I just need to like type them all out and search for them all individually. But
I can definitely post the links. I can post the links in the chat, but speaking from experience, like if you go to Tableau's, all these videos you can find on Tableau's YouTube. But if you go there and you search their videos, there's no good way to say like, I want to look at the Veterans Advocacy Group and just show those videos. It is tough. One thing that I
Fair
can
enough.
do, I'll send out these links. And then we also, through our challenges, we have a website that we host all of our challenges on called Viz for Vets, and it's vizforvets.com if you want to check out the website.
Can you throw it up here?
I sure can, actually. I'm sharing. What the heck am I doing?
Yeah.
But it's vizforvets.com. And what I'll do, and I actually built this thing, so guys don't laugh. This is not my day job, building websites. But what I'll do is I can create in here, I'll do a blog and I'll just post all of our video links in the blog. So I think I can implement that pretty easily. And then I'll just add to it as time goes on. But this is our website. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely recommend checking it out. Talks about more about what our group is about. We have our recent events on here. We also host the data sets that we publish for our events. So if you haven't seen any of our challenges, here's some of that data that you can access. So just click download data. It kind of gives you a brief on what that particular event was about. And then this will take you to our GitHub page where you can download the data raw and build your own vizzes. But that's a good idea. I think that's definitely something we should do moving forward to make it easier for you guys to review past presentations. I'll just create a blog for all of them, kind of give you some of the key highlights and show off a link in there. Actually, sorry. Anybody else have any feedback? Anything you'd like to see next year? Like I said, we're in the planning phase, so we're looking at presenting new content. So if there is anything you want to see, don't feel bad about asking for it. We can make it happen.
Python. Everybody is talking Python. I've only had a little bit of experience with coding, so SQL is the main thing that I did. I taught myself VBA, built my first dashboards in Excel using VBA, using with and not using VBA actually. But we are really moving into data science. I'm trying to stay in the historic, but I can't escape it. And with what I've got on the plate next year, and with the way things are going, I think Python's got to be number 2 to Tableau now. I hope I'm not upsetting anybody else out there. And I've also found it very hard to implement it into. I've tried some very rudimentary implementations. I noticed on 2022.3, you can now connect to a Python script to pull in that data. And I don't know whether that means that you don't no longer need the data connectors, but just in general, yeah, Python integration, TabPy, if that is the route, but how you actually get it into there. And then that really sort of extends over to R as well.
I think we could definitely do or build out some content for that. I have experience implementing R and Python using Tableau. So essentially connecting the data in Tableau, writing out my Python, and what it does is it sends that script from Tableau to say our server. Our server will do its thing with the script that you're sending, and it will return the results.
Yeah.
So what that means is like I could easily run some sort of regression model, and in Tableau I get results back, and now I can pull out and identify all the coefficients for that regression. So now I can build out a predictive model using R's coefficients that it's returned in Tableau and visualize that. So there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do. But I think we could definitely build out some content. We might even be able to find a speaker that touches on that stuff using those extensions.
That'd be awesome.
What else? Anybody else have anything they're passionate about learning about? I guess we do have a diverse kind of audience here. So let me ask this too. The content we created on like the interview workshop was very successful. Is that something that, I guess everyone in this audience, is that something that you would be interested in attending as well, like a interview workshop kind of thing? And that could be for more experienced people in their career, or, you know, folks that are just getting started.
If nobody else will jump in on that, I'd like to say something on that then. I've actually hired and been part of the interview processes. Obviously, we've all walked through that process as well. But just a couple of observations I've made on that, and I don't know whether it would be useful in this group, that's why I want to mention it, is I found that when hiring, I totally support what you're saying. Content, if you have a Tableau public portfolio out there, that's the first thing I'm going to look at, because it gives me something to talk about and assess your abilities. I found very quickly that probably 80% of all applicants I've ever interviewed had spent about 2 or 3 days in YouTube, and you could see it because they'd all produced the same stuff. One even plagiarized Tao Huang's cryptocurrency dashboard and presented it as their own work, which was quite shocking. But yeah, the content is definitely one thing out there. But the other one was, I didn't actually try and find somebody who was specifically fantastic in Tableau. I was looking for anybody that had a good understanding of Excel, possibly had SQL, and had a modicum of ability in Tableau, because I know that I can always encourage them, mentor them, train them up in Tableau. I don't look for Tableau specialists. I look for people, and you mentioned it yourself. You can build the greatest dashboard on earth. Doesn't matter one little bit if nobody knows how to use it or can access it. I prioritize people qualities above technical qualities, because technical qualities you can always work on later. If that's of any use, I've just thought I'd put that out there.
Yeah, that's great, Paul. I appreciate that. Certainly been my experience as well, whether I'm being interviewed or I'm interviewing someone else. So, Ethan, I wanted to call out, it looks like Shelley had a comment in here about studying for Tableau certification and whether there's been speakers that address like strategies. I think that would be interesting, or an interesting topic. I mean, even for me, yeah, it's like a mix of Google and searching it within Slack to find help with things that, you know, I know a little bit about, but if there was like a path that's recommended, or someone's gone down like a really helpful path, I think it'd be really interesting to hear.
I love that. And actually, I know the perfect speaker for that content. I went and spoke to, I think it was the Madison TUG. They're close to Milwaukee. And there was a presenter there that spoke on that exact topic. Basically, like strategies on how to get certified, and then the different paths and what they mean. So she kind of related each certification, because, you know, there's a data analyst certification, the consultant certification, and what those mean as far as like where you're at in your career, what would be available to you if you're, you know, a Tableau partner or not, and that kind of thing. So I can reach out to her and put that on here, because I do think that would be great content. I appreciate you guys bringing that up. Thank you, Shelley. Well, I think we're a little past the top of the hour. Obviously, I really appreciate all the feedback. Thank you guys so much. And this has been a great year for us. We have a lot of really cool things planned out for next year. We're just getting started, really. So yeah, looking forward to what's to come, and hopefully you guys can be along for that journey. We'd love to have you. If you guys do have any questions or have any other further input, and this goes for folks that are watching this recording as well, feel free to reach out to us directly on LinkedIn. I'm happy to talk through things or get different ideas on what's working, what's not working, and go from there. But awesome. I appreciate it, guys. Have a great day and enjoy the holidays.
Thanks for
Thanks very
hosting.
much.
Bye.
Take care, guys.
Bye all.